Hello guys, this will be my second debunk video on my channel. I saw this video and wanted to have my take on this matchup, so let's get right to it.
But it's still a pretty good feat as it gets him in the large country level ranges. You know, not no star level, but hey, large country. Thanos upscale.
This is the lowest possible scaling I have seen for Thor, as even in his first movie he shattered an entire ice continent in a single strike, and the databooks even reference this as an ice continent. And according to the VFX team, the hole Thor made was 100 times larger than the Grand Canyon, and for reference, Grand Canyon has the area of 4,926 square kilometers, and if we multiply it by 100 we would get an area of 492,600 square kilometers, or around 90% of France. Destroying that much area in a single strike would get him to country to large country level at minimum. And it was also stated that he also shook the entire planet, and as they left we could see from the curvature of the planet the crater can be scaled even higher, but considering this was done by movie 1 Thor, who is much weaker than movie 2 Thor or Ragnarok version of Thor, who was defeated by Hela, and Hela gets stronger as long she stayed in Asgard, and awakened Thor was strong enough to battle her head-on, and even victory was possible, so it is safe to say he is way above large country level.
Star. A lot of people still goon this feat, but the energy a star emits is not equivalent to the act of destroying said star. Like, it's been 8 years, guys. There's no way I have to explain why Thor enduring the energy of a star in proportion to his body for like 58 seconds, with him falling unconscious 40 seconds in, doesn't mean that he can endure, much less output energy comparable to what would be required to destroy an actual star in its entirety. But it's
Yes, the feat of Thor withstanding that blast is not star level, but he is not large country level either. First of all, as you said, this is not a regular star, but a neutron star, and unlike regular stars, neutron star doesn't emit energy like typical star, and only way that neutron star emit energy is through means of pulsar. Pulsars are rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit beams of radiation, and their energy source is their rotational energy. This rotational energy is converted into powerful beams of light that appear as regular pulses when viewed from Earth. So how strong are these pulsars? The Crab Nebula pulsar generates a total power output that is 100,000 times greater than the power output of our Sun. This pulsar, located at the center of the Crab Nebula, our Sun releases about 380 septillion joules per second, or around 90 petatons of TNT, which is well over multi-continental, and now multiply it over 100,000 times, which would be around 9 zetatons of TNT, or small planet level. And according to Eitri the dwarf, it takes few minutes to forge that hammer. It was shown 48 seconds for pacing, as it's an intense scene, and dragging it too long will break the pacing. So, Thor withstood at minimum 3 to 4 minutes of energy that could destroy small planets. But Thor's max strength is even further, considering in the very first movie, not only he destroyed the Bifrost Bridge and survived the blast being in the epicenter, which had enough energy to destroy Jotunheim, which should be comparable to Earth, which is planet-level feat. And remember that prior to tanking neutron star, Thanos blew up his ship and left him in vast cold outer space. And right after meeting the Guardians, he went to Nidavellir without any rest or proper healing. He might gotten a little time to recover during the travel, but he might not be at his 100% during the neutron star feat. Not only he had to withstood large amount of radiation, but also explosion of his own ship, as it was not a regular ship, as it passed through the wormhole that contained magnetar, which releases more energy in 1/10 second than the sun releases in 150,000 years, or around 10 duodecillion joules, which is around dwarf star level, and even withstood geostrain of a singularity. And Thanos destroyed that ship using the Power Stone, and Thor withstood that blast, which should put his durability at dwarf star level to star level at minimum. There are also other feats, like in the end of Thor 1, Loki fell into the black hole and survived. So at minimum injured, Thor can handle like around 9 zetatons of TNT for few minutes before passing out, making his overall durability over 1.176 yotatons of TNT, or large planet level, but in a healthy state, he could be much more durable. And same Thor considered facing Thanos without that axe as suicide, which puts Thanos at minimum large planetary to dwarf star level, and at highball, Thanos will upscale all of star durability of Thor, making him star to solar system level in terms of attack potency.
of the completed Infinity Gauntlet emits enough resting power to destroy an entire continent, which would mean Thanos can essentially endure energy anywhere between 760 teratons to even as high as 4.4 petatons.
Even the Tesseract is said to have enough power to destroy the world in first Avengers movie, and not to mention Thanos can touch the Power Stone without any damage, and according to Ego the Living Planet and the Collector, only celestial-level entities can wield the Power Stone, which in the first Guardians movie, if the stone touched the planet, it will kill all life on the planet, so the Power Stone alone can generate enough power to be considered multi-continental levels of power to potentially even planet level in its resting state. And as for the speed scaling, Thanos should be faster than speed of light, since he could dodge light-based attacks like Iron Man's laser beam and Captain Marvel's photon beam, and even have weapons that could destroy Captain America's shield, which not even Thor's hammer was capable of.
Harnessing their power compared to anyone else,
Meaning that with the gauntlet his proficiency is much higher than Doctor Strange, who can make time loops with never-ending death. Much higher than Malekith, who wanted to use the Reality Stone to transform the universe back into one of eternal darkness, and not only Midgard, but all the 9 realms. Video also included gauntlet scaling, and considering the fact with the power and space stone alone, he is far stronger than any being in the whole universe, which would include the like of Ego, who could consume every planets and civilization across galaxies, and even in our low-end stat, Thanos should easily surpass dwarf star levels of feat. So with the full set of stones, he is far stronger, and he only talked about the power aspect of the gauntlet, not any other things like time manipulation, reality manipulation, and possible mind control, and other mental-based abilities, and soul manipulation and teleportation with Space Stone. And then the video talks about the sonic scaling, and just like in the MCU part, I also disagree with many of the sonic scaling in this video as well.
As a nice baseline, a single one of Sonic's quills can produce a shockwave visible from orbit, which when calculated has been asserted to output relative energy to what would be required to destroy an entire island.
I don't know where he got that island level calculation. While it might be a big explosion, it might not be as powerful as it seems, considering the blast is not like an actual blast, but something similar to EMP blast. And in the first movie, when the members from Gun reject the idea it being EMP, but that's due to the fact no powerful EMP that could shut down all energy sources in all of Eastern Pacific. But if we know Sonic's energy blasts might be similar to EMP, since it doesn't harm regular humans like Dr. Eggman, who was close to the epicenter during one of those explosions. But based on the fact that blast reached all of Pacific Northwest, and as a broader geographic region is approximately 1,930 kilometers from north to south, and the satellite that hit could be low Earth satellite, which orbits around the Earth on 2,000 kilometers altitude, considering the blast covered around 2,000 kilometers distance, and in order to produce that much EMP, it would take 2.37 megatons of TNT or small city level.
The first time in years during a 25, charging sequence, was able to generate enough energy to create a shockwave that could travel across the universe to Tails' home planet. This distance is likely accurate, as Tails is presumably from the same planet as Sonic, which Longclaw confirms is on the far side of the universe in its position to the planet Earth. So Sonic generating an explosion that could travel that far, that fast, over the course of like 2 days at worst, would mean that this little guy is capable of generating some truly insane levels of power. But for a really conservative estimate, just taking into account the distance it traveled from Earth to the satellite, and it's been found that the yield of energy of this satellite would be anywhere between 9.5 zetatons to even 626 zetatons, which is anywhere between...
Well, once again, I don't know how Sonic could even scale that high. First of all, there are these things called deep space probes, which are equipped with instruments to collect data from distant regions of space. This data can include images, spectral data, and measurements of environmental conditions. And even by Earth standard, we could detect similar types of energy for afar, and considering how brilliant of a scientist Tails, his tech would be more advanced than anything on Earth, which means just because he could detect Sonic from a far side of the universe doesn't correlate on how strong or fast his energy is.
Small planetary to just baseline planetary. And as crazy as it seems, Sonic would scale to this level in terms of his AP and durability, as by the end of Sonic 2, he's relative to Knuckles, who can one-shot Sonic post-Sonic 1, and just fight on par with a character who can endure attacks from this presumably stronger Sonic in quick succession, rapidly as well. So yes.
Once again, his base form is not planet level in terms of attack potency or durability, and he got stronger from Sonic 1 to Sonic 2, and in 3, but nowhere near small planet level. His power growth is in an unquantifiable, yet at steady pace, and he doesn't showcase a planetary feat until Sonic 3. And then he talked about Shadow scaling, who not only fought Team Sonic, and also knocked the Chaos Emeralds out of an enraged Super Sonic with his power limiters. The only reason Sonic won in their last confrontation, because at that point of the movie, he was questioning his own actions, as when Shadow injured Tom, mistaking him for Rockwell, and Shadow even questioned General Robotnik if this was what Maria wanted. So during their last fight, Shadow was mentally nerfed, which means that base Shadow is stronger than Super Sonic.
The baby, Sonic is confirmed to be able to run around his entire island in the span of 2 seconds, which would be a feat in the sub-relativistic range.
Without the context of big the island is, calculating said speed would be difficult, and around the island would either means he traveled along the coastline or across the island. And if we considered that he traveled along the coastline, and if we assume the island is at size of Hawaii, which has coastline length of 1,210 kilometers under 2 seconds, which would be 605 kilometers per second, or around 1,763.85 times the speed of sound, reaching massively hypersonic speed, not sub-relativistic. But considering we don't know anything about the island, it's best not to assume anything.
Ranges. As an adult now, he can perceive Eggman's missiles as frozen, which would get his, travel speed, combat speed, and perception speed in the relativistic ranges at work.
Dr. Eggman's missiles aren't that fast considering its Earth-based technology, and based on the size of the missile, it would most likely travel at the same speed as an RPG at max velocity of 300 meters per second. As the time it would travel from 1 centimeter, it would take 33 microseconds, and from Sonic perspective, he traveled several meters, and as he was on top of the building and jumped on the drones down, mostly 1 or 2 floors, which would be 6 meters, or even 9 meters if we consider it as 3 floors, and this will make his speed around 272,727.27 meters per second, around 795 times the speed of sound, which is also massively hypersonic.
But for higher ends, the Sonic the Hedgehog novel confirms that the blue blur is capable of moving at hyperspeed, which is just a synonym for faster than speed. It's a sentiment remarkably consistent throughout the novel, so I'm just gonna put them on screen. Yeah. For higher ends now, the speed of Sonic.
While the Oxford Dictionary of Science Fiction defines terms like hyperspeed in the context of certain science fiction works, such as Star Wars or Star Trek, often referring to faster than light, FTL, travel via technologies like hyperspace, it doesn't cover every sci-fi universe or piece of media. In general, the word means extremely high speed.
Sonic's energy shockwaves traveled across the far side of the universe in a very short manner of time, assuming that the shockwaves made it to his planet the same night, as that's what Tails says, and it's been determined that the speed of these shockwaves exceeded the speed of light 109 trillion times over. Sonic should scale to his own power, especially in the speed.
Once again, Tails finding Sonic from other side of the universe will credit how advanced Tails' technology is and its capability, as it does not correlate this to Sonic's speed or in power any way, shape, or form.
And then at the beginning of Sonic 3, you have Commander Walter saying that Shadow is far above it. For some consistency, Sonic, especially at his peak, is able to blitz Eggman, a character who has no trouble viewing, base Sonic level characters in terms of combat as well as speed.
He unironically believes that regular humans like Dr. Eggman have light speed reaction. Remember during the Thanos fight on Titan, he went on how Thanos is holding back and explained all the narrative reasoning, but when it comes to Sonic scaling, he threw all of that out of the window. For reference, Iron Man blocking the energy of the Power Stone doesn't even make him country level, but for Eggman, all he needed is to move out of Sonic's way to considered light speed reaction time. First off all, Sonic doesn't have on-site beef with Eggman just to kill him with a light speed punch, even if he can move at light speed. And secondly, the fight took place in his house, so moving that fast that quick would cause major damage to the house, or even the neighbors, But the point Sonic would never use his power recklessly while he was glowing and angry. He might have done that to intimidate Dr. Eggman, since he is only human. So in short, no, Dr. Eggman is only human, and if he can react to light speed, why did he needed that suit to enter the vault that protected by lasers in the third movie?
On to the Sonic 3 scaling now, and we got a lot of planetary stuff, right? We had that before, but it just got a lot more consistent. This is because the entire plot revolves around the erasure cannon, which is implied to be able to planet bust. As Gerald states that the machine would generate a blast that would destroy everything in a 25,000 mile radius. For comparison, the planet Earth has a circumference of 24,000 miles. So yeah, at worst, this blast is planetary.
Sonic never displayed planetary feat prior to this. And even stopping the Eclipse cannon in the movie required the help of Super Shadow, who in base could knock out Super Sonic, and Super Sonic required all of his strength to stop that beam, and even fainted at the end, so it's safe to say he can't stop that cannon all by himself, and not for that long time. With this said, Eclipse cannon needed 200 nonillion joules of energy, or around 49 zetatons of TNT, which is planet level.
Gerald also states that the blast would destroy them as well, so this hypothetical, explosion is taking out the Earth and some change. Due to some calcs I found on the Versus Wiki, the hypothetical power, harness and this blast would be, planetary at worst. Nothing that I just couldn't infer. But due to one of my boys, apparently they forgot to square their inverse square law, which means that this hypothetical blast would actually be equivalent to 9.4 yotatons. That's large planetary amounts of power.
Well, it's a laser, a beam of light compacted. While the inverse law is applicable to lasers, but in this case the energy is not spread out and still could destroy the Earth. All of it was concentrated, so the divergence of beam is negligible factor resulting with no change in power.
Talking about the blast for the erasure cannon because Shadow generated it by running in a circle for 30 seconds, similar to how Sonic running for 30 seconds in the first movie generated planetary amounts of energy. So I guess it's only appropriate that Shadow, who's far above base Sonic, is able to generate larger planetary amounts of energy while doing the same thing as.
Once again, Shadow is stronger than Super Sonic. Second off, Shadow doesn't match his power to the Eclipse cannon while it uses the chaos energy of base Shadow. Even Super Shadow needed help to stop that beam of the cannon. If Eclipse cannon is equal to base Shadow, then Super Shadow could be enough to stop it. Also, chaos energy of Shadow to be some sort of catalyst rather an actual power source, and that's the reason even Super Shadow couldn't stop his own power without help.
Thermonuclear gerbil doing, infusing the core with chaos energy. That's my little secret. The Eclipse cannon is about to turn this planet into a flaming pile of
feats, but I think I presented enough stuff to the point where we have large planetary AP as a baseline for both of the Super Hedgehogs, and it would also scale to their durability as they could just sit in the blast for a very prolonged period of time. And as for
So where do they scale? Super Sonic can reach the moon in 3 seconds, which would put his speed around 128,133,333.33 meter per second, or 43% the speed of light. Base Shadow is, as I mentioned, was strong enough to knock the Chaos Emerald out of Super Sonic. So he is stronger, but not like drastically stronger or faster, which would put Base Shadow at 50% the speed of light. And we have no concrete info on the power boost of Superforms R, as it could be 2 times or even 10 times boost. With that said, it's safe to say Super Shadow is faster than the speed of light. After stopping the beam from Eclipse cannon, Sonic fainted, while Shadow was not only fine, but went on to push the cannon by removing his limiters, and Shadow canonically has 4 limiters, and even in the final scene, he only removed 2 of those. And once again, we don't know how much they limit Shadow's strength, but based on their strength difference, I would say Shadow did the most of the work in the stopping of the Eclipse cannon, scaling around 70%, which is around 34.3 zetatons of TNT, or small planet level, which means Sonic is around 14.7 zetatons of TNT, or small planet level.
I think that if we're going to use base Thanos and his army, then Sonic and Shadow got this in the bag. They're much stronger and they're much faster. And if that is an issue, Shadow and Sonic have a lot of ways to get rid of hordes of people. Sonic can conjure up massive storms, as seen at the end of Sonic 2. And Shadow especially has a lot of crazy stuff. He's got this, black hole thing. I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that it was going to suck up Knuckles, Sonic, and Tails. Characters much stronger than the average Atari members. And spoilers, Shadow Shadow has the ability to utilize multiple Chaos Spears, and he can throw them all at once, which he uses to destroy a huge horde of robots. So, remember how Captain Marvel was during Endgame? It would be like that, but times 2. And if we're gonna use a Thanos with no stones, yeah, he's kind of cooked. But
Thanos is winning the fight with no difficulties. Injured Thor was able to tank the full force of Neutron Star, which is around 1.176 yotatons of TNT or large planet level before passing out, and he would be much stronger if he was healthier. Let's say that a healthy Thor is twice as strong, which would put him around 2.352 yotatons of TNT. This is without using awakened form, in which he is 10 times stronger than his base, or around 23.52 yotatons of TNT or large planet level. And he considered facing Thanos without the axe as a suicide. Even if base Shadow is on par with the Eclipse Cannon, and if we assume Super Shadow as 10 times boost, or even 50 times boost, since the form is inspired from Super Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z, which would place Super Shadow 2.45 yotatons of TNT or large planet level. And even in this unreasonably highball scaling, Super Shadow is 9.6 times weaker than the awakened Thor, and in a conservative number, the gap raises 685.71 times. So in short, they are not touching base Thanos, and with the Infinity Stones he is a lot more stronger and has more hacks than either of the hedgehogs in their super form.
Thanos with a full gauntlet. As seen at the end of Infinity War, Thanos was blitzed and caught off guard by Thor when he had the completed gauntlet. And it caused him to just throw out a random blast, right? The directors confirmed that he was off guard, he didn't know what he was doing, right? So, could you imagine Thanos trying to utilize the stones when he's trying to fight characters who are trillions of times faster than him? Unironically, Thor was relative to him.
Sonic was not even that fast in his super form, let alone in his base. Super Shadow might be faster than Thanos, but both of them are not hitting harder than the Stormbreaker.
Imagine saying Thanos has MFTO plus combat speeds and reaction times, and he's out here getting blitzed by Spider-Man. Same guy who Captain America can tag. Same Captain America who gets tagged by bullets. So hey, if you want to wank, it's only...
Imagine wanking base Sonic to massively faster than light just to get him tagged by Tranquilizer Dart, which moves at the speed of 90 meters per second or around 19 times slower than the actual bullet. Knuckles, who is on the similar level to Sonic, was knocked out by a car and had hard time chasing a car that going like 60 kilometers per hour, and Knuckles wasn't even close to catching it. The winner is Thanos. He has more attack potency, comparable combat speed to match the hedgehogs, and higher durability, and with the gauntlet, he has more hacks than the Master Emerald, so the matchup is not even close. So that's it for today, guys. See you in the next video.